Hi, my name is Shawn Ashkanasy, and I'm a wellbeing coach, and yeah, that's my title. So at the moment, I'm doing a number of things. In my daytime, at the moment, I'm completing a PhD at Monash University at the Business School, and I'm part of the Department of Management. And the work that I'm pursuing at the moment is really based upon a lot of my experiences working out in organisations, as well as my own personal interests. And so specifically, I'm looking at breath-based interventions and ways in which they might be useful and effective tools to support people to better self-regulate when dealing with stress. And so stress shows up in all aspects of our lives. Sometimes they're short-lived, sometimes they're ongoing. And so how can we develop the skills to be able to recognize stressful situations and the positive steps that we can take to improve our reactivity to it? So building our resilience as much as building our awareness for the kinds of things that are going to be effective to enable us to perform at our best in our work, also in our personal lives, as well as the things that are going to support our overall well-being. So really sort of trying to find that relationship between performing optimally at work, but also doing the things that might be also beneficial for enabling our ongoing well-being needs. I've always been driven and motivated to work in the well-being space. It's something I've always naturally just gravitated towards. Whether I have been working as a yoga teacher in one form, working as a counsellor in organisations. So the well-being of individuals and organisations is something that I'm very passionate about, given that work is a large part of everybody's lives, and work doesn't often just simply stop when we leave the door. The way it impacts us, both positively and sometimes negatively. So looking at ways that I might play a positive role in supporting organisations to develop strategies and ways of supporting their staff that are going to be beneficial for their employees, but also going to make places that are great to work at. I think it's something I've always been really passionate about. So rather than sort of seeing organisations as independent of the well-being of their staff, really sort of seeing organisational culture and practices as an integral partner in ensuring that employees can perform really well, but also ensure that they are also going to go on to be happy, healthy individuals as well. So one of the things I love about working in my role is people. Learning about people, understanding people, seeing people, and creating a space where people feel like they can just be themselves. I think sometimes when we get overwhelmed at work, it's because we feel like we might need to compartmentalize aspects of ourselves that we're not allowed to bring to work, or maybe won't be welcomed at work. And so creating a space where people can just open up and talk and be relaxed, and through that process, hopefully discover what might be missing or might be enabling for them to overcome certain things that might be distressing them. So yeah, I think the really important thing for me is about building trust, it's about building relationships, and it's about creating a place where people just feel genuinely comfortable to talk about whatever is going on. Not working as a clinician, I feel that is a strength of mine because I don't want to pathologize people. I don't want to make people feel that what's going on for them is unusual or somehow requires them to be a better person. I think everybody is always trying to do their best. So my job is just to support that inner goodness, that capacity, and work with them collaboratively to sort of identify skills or traits that they might be able to work on. But my job really is just to draw those things out and enable the individual to then identify them and want to work on them. Well, what I find most rewarding about my work, again, is the relationships. I think also it's important to acknowledge that I'm not simply a passive observer, in as much as I might bring some qualities to the people or some benefits to the people that I work with. I feel that that is often reciprocated. I grow as an individual as well, and it enriches my life. And so that motivates me. If I was simply there as an observer, that wouldn't be much fun, and it wouldn't be very enjoyable or rewarding. So I want to believe that when I'm working with people, it is mutually beneficial, and I want them to also feel that that is what we're working towards, a mutual understanding and a mutual respect. And when we build that in a therapeutic sense, it also means that we're more likely to then trust other people as well. So maybe it really is about reconnecting or establishing, in some cases, a sense of goodness in people and a trust in people and a willingness to work with ourselves and to work with other people as well. So that's really rewarding for me, seeing those relationships grow and become positive and productive and effective. And I think there's a lot of pressure on organisations and individuals to get it right. And I don't think there is any formula for well-being. I don't think there is a one format or one process or one structure or philosophy that's going to work. It really is about spending time, being playful, being curious, experimenting, and taking time. And I think that that's one of the most important things that I've learned is patience. And I think it's a word that gets bandied around a lot, but compassion. But I also think compassion is a huge part of the well-being journey that we all go on at some point, and we don't get it right. And I think having patience and having a bit of care and compassion for ourselves as we learn about ourselves, whether you're an organisation or an individual, it's just a really crucial part of how we become more well. So yeah, I wanted to put that as well. A fun fact, that in my spare time, I like to freedive. And in fact, the freediving has been instrumental in my interest in breath work, and how breath work can be such an amazing tool to learn about the body and the body's relationship to stress, and how to deal with conflict or how to deal with situations where we might feel out of control. So when I'm diving and I'm deep underwater and the environment feels foreign and my body is reacting and I can feel the thoughts in my mind coming up, knowing that my body has the capacity to deal with that has been a great lesson for me. And being able to bring those skills back into my everyday has been a powerful ongoing tool in my life. And also, I think I like to experiment a lot. I like to explore different ways of being in my body, of learning what it's like to have a body, and to experiment with how I can explore, for example, stress. For a while there, I pursued Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out of a curiosity of what was it like to be in a situation where I didn't necessarily have control of what was happening, and learning to be okay with that and learning how to regulate. So yeah, they're things that I like to pursue in my spare time. So yeah, I should also say I love to dance. Dancing is also one of my passions. I love going to festivals. I love being in nature. And I love being around people that are having a good time and feeling that collective energy. It fills me up. I think Allos offers a unique solution to EAPs and looks very deeply at how do we approach an increasingly uncertain world. What are the kinds of support networks and specialists and education that's going to enable organisations and employees continue to evolve and adapt to the world that we're currently living in. And so one of the things I've always loved about working with Allos is they're very hands-on. I like to be hands-on. I like to know what the people I'm working with are dealing with on a daily basis. What is the work that you do? What are the stresses of your work? What are the joys of your work? It removes the abstractness of it and makes it real. So Allos likes to place themselves within the world of the people who they're serving. And I think an EAP that is going to be effective has to do that. Otherwise it remains detached. And I think that anything effective has to be involved. It has to be, so to speak, at the coalface. And then the strategies, the training, the relationships can be genuine. EAPs are there, and they're there to be accessed at your discretion. And I think for a lot of people, there might be an apprehension. It's a difficult journey to acknowledge that we may not be coping or we may be having difficulties in our life. I've been through that. The people I've worked with have been through that. That first step can often be the most difficult, and in the end, often the most rewarding. Just taking that first step to acknowledge, I feel like I might need support. I would like to talk to somebody. And that's just the first step. And the first time we open up, the first time we discuss things, then we can begin to navigate. And I think EAPs are great because they give you different avenues that you can navigate that world, your world. And I think having access to different services is really special and unique. And the fact that it's up to you, you don't have to tell anybody, it's your choice. And so I think that EAPs play an important role in reducing the stigma of mental health in workplaces as well. And so for me, if organizations organizations also need to play a positive role in promoting their EAPs as well, and reassuring employees that even though you are promoting it and you're enabling it, in the end, that's all you do. The content of those relationships, the contents of those interactions are 100% private and discreet. And so for me, EAPs just play. They're an amazing stepping stone. They can be an amazing stepping stone for people getting back on track to where they want to be in their lives and creating the kinds of relationships, relationship with themselves that they want, and that's going to again make themselves well and being able to perform well at work. What makes Allos unique within the plethora of EAP services out there is that relatability, is that human touch, is that willingness to go above and beyond just going, here's a bunch of services, you know, they're there if you want them, which they are, of course, but having a role within the organization, being there, people seeing you, understanding you, building those relationships. I think Allos is about relationships. It's not just about services. Services are just abstract unless there is a face, there is a voice, there is a relationship behind it. And I think Adam and Allos and everybody else who works within Allos understands that and enables that. So I understand that people are hesitant because it's difficult to acknowledge that maybe we're not doing as well as we thought. And I think coming to terms with our own understanding or perception of ourselves, that it's okay to not always have it, to not always have the answers. I don't think anybody has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. But when we talk to people and acknowledging that, it relieves a huge burden, a huge sense of individual or private responsibility that for me is only going to make things worse in any situation. So for me, just simply having a chat, that's all it is. There is no contract. You don't even have to be committed to it. And I think it's just making that first step of just acknowledging within yourself that maybe something's not right. I would just like to talk to somebody. That, I think for me, is the easiest and lightest and gentlest way that somebody might start their journey. So if you are thinking about it, if something is on your mind, and it's a recurring theme, and I think often we all have lots of recurring thoughts and themes, and we just keep putting them off. But in some regards, this is one of the easiest choices I think you can make, is just booking in a conversation with somebody and having a chat. And then you can see, do I like this? How does this feel for me? And then you can make other choices. Because unless you make that first step, again, it's all abstract. It's all just what we think. Turning what we think into something that's actually real and tangible is the way in which we can then make that assessment and then choose if I do want to pursue anything further. But we have to make that first choice. And in the case of accessing an EAP, I think an EAP is one of the easiest, gentlest ways of starting that journey.